Parenting does not mean just guiding the children on the general values, but they must instill in them the bhakti or the dedication to our land, to our Madhur our precious Bharat. And I hope that they will be able to do that.
The kind of help parents can give requires mindfulness in the sense of being attentive to the child, understanding the child, and being responsive to the child's needs, because ultimately the child's happiness should be all that matters to us as parents.
The spacecraft came out of the womb of the rocket, and I felt always like that. The mother takes it to the space, it delivers it there for a greater journey beyond that point. I think that symbolizes the roles of a parent and the journey of a child.
If we need to make quantum leaps in social progress, we need to invest in the youngest of children.
Yes, to be a mindful parent or to walk the path of mindful parenting, I think we as parents need to regulate our emotions. We need to be very strong. We need to be like a role model for the children, because they keep looking at us, they keep watching us, they keep picking up a word or thought of what we express. So it's important that we become emotionally very strong, emotionally very stable.
Jayadhari Ma, I welcome you all very, very warmly. हमारी audience का स्वागत है. Sir, प्रणाम sir. जी, आपको प्रणाम sir. प्रणाम. जी. For me, personally, love is a verb. It ought to nourish you, nurture you. The love of a parent is like a steady umbrella. And I see a very, very blessed, beautiful family in front of me with Ma's Kripa, where the love of the parents has nurtured and nourished the entire family. For me, Sir is my elder, and I call Dr. Vidya very fondly Didi. Dr. Rajiv is Bhaiya to me. So this is family. We welcome you all. And Ji, Mami, Ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you, Dr. Majumdar.
Namaste.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, Rajiv.
Pleasure, ma'am.
Ajay, Rahul, and Saina, we're most grateful on behalf of the Demonstrative Learning YouTube channel that you spared such a valuable time of yours and your energy. I know, Dr. Saab, your every minute is so very precious to the world, to the country, to your family. I want to thank you and your family. We've called you not just as the founder and president of Symbiosis Society, chancellor of Symbiosis International University, the Padma Bhushan, the Padam Shri, the Punya Bhushan, and the Maharashtra Gaurav, but as a father who has given to India such an illustrious family, such an empire of education, which has made Pune the Oxford of the East. We want to know from you what made you such a good father. What are the things you took care to become such a good father and created a great family with Vidya as your daughter and son-in-law in Rajiv that you have expanded, continue to grow, Dr. Saab. All yours. Thank you.
First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact and to express my views on mindful parenting and how I practice it. I really do not know how many of listeners know what exactly is the mindful parenting. So I have a long definition for all of us. Mindful parenting is the effort to bring awareness, attention, and curiosity to your interactions with your children. It involves listening, reflecting, and choosing to respond in a way that uplifts both parents and the child. Now, when you ask me what makes you a father, a great father, whatever adjective you give, I personally feel that I was born in a family with four sisters, one brother, and I found that in my family, values were more important, and therefore, my mother especially takes special interest in inculcating moral values in us. Honestly speaking, it is mother who was responsible for my moral uplifting or moral upbringing, whereas father was responsible for giving me the social outlook, social values. So moral values were important to me by my mother, good values were imparted to me by my father. And therefore, I was, I was raised in a family where society was important and family was important. Now, coming to your question, I have two daughters, Vidya and Swati. My native place was a small village, and in that village, you must have a son. And my relatives in the village, and some of them did not like me to have only daughters. They said, how come you didn't have son? So they were the only daughters in my family. And I must confess to all of you today that it was not I who was responsible for mindful parenting, but it was my mother who was responsible. Because I had just started Symbiosis and I was so busy, I was so much struggling to bring up the society that I had no time to pay attention to my family. And therefore, my wife and I had a tacit understanding. What is that? I told my wife that you look after the family, you look after the finances, and I will look after. For me, Symbiosis was third child. And therefore, I did many things. I struggled for Symbiosis. And so, in a way, I was more interested in mindful parenting of Symbiosis rather than adoptions. It may sound very strange, but believe me, it was my wife who really did entire mindful parenting, as you call it, as far as my two daughters are concerned. That I started Symbiosis, and then many foreign students used to come in my house. Vidya was a small child, and indirectly, she used to see foreign students from Africa, like Kenya, Uganda, and Thailand, so many. And she was watching. Perhaps the international understanding or internationalism was her baby food. And slowly, she became aware of the students' influence. It so happened that Vidya, my wife and I wanted her to become a doctor. And believe me, my wife used to be awake till 3:30 so that Vidya paid attention to her studies. And she became so-called, what should I say? She became so obsessed with her studies. And when she got admission to BG Medical College, we were really happy. So nobody, in fact, my wife was doing her PhD in Pune University. But because of her intense desire that my daughter should become a doctor, for that she should be in the merit list. Merit list. She took great pains. Vidya when she became a doctor, she went abroad along with her husband. And there she spent nearly 4 to 5 years. After some time, they decided to come back. And then she joined Symbiosis instead of starting her own gynecology hospital. So also Rajiv, her husband. And I didn't make her directly joint director or whatever designation was there. But she used to observe me functioning as the founder and director of Symbiosis. And she used to watch me from a distance, how I treat foreign students, how I treat my staff members. And then I thought this Vidya will help me even in administration. Now, whether you call me how I became a great father, whether I am a great father, whether I am a strict father, whether I'm really confused. That is how I became slowly Vidya's idol.
Didi, we feel a lot of love in his voice for you. He's pouring his heart out. He's sharing his emotions. Sir, with your permission, can I ask a little question?
Please.
Sir, 45 students. You said Symbiosis is like a third child to you. तब मन में ये बात आई. Sir, how do you see a revolution happening in the education system where we can start preparing our youngsters not just for their careers and professions but even for life? How can a revolution happen, sir, where we can prepare the youngsters for life, and with their degree it's written wise humane doctor, wise humane lawyer, wise humane teacher, where they are responsible for the self and others and they don't forget that? How can that revolution happen in colleges and universities? Ji sir.
You see, early childhood education was in the realm of totally private sector. Child education was not in the mainstream of education. We have been in the process of implementing 10 plus 2 plus 4, 10 years in school, 2 years in higher secondary schools, and 4 years in college. This was the pattern of education, the model of education for our country. But National Education Commission which was headed by scientist Dr. Sturlangan, and which is now adopted by our government, totally changed the pattern of education. Now, and for the first time in the history of education of our country, for the first time, child education has been brought in the mainstream of education. And instead of 10 plus 2 plus 3, now it is 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That particular pattern shows that 5 years are to be dedicated to child education. And the basis for that is it has happened for the first time. Because they realize that child education is the most important part of our education system. Why? Because the development of brain takes place only up to the age of 6. And therefore, the new educational policy has given considerable importance to our higher education. I tell you, China, if we really implement new education system or new education policy, it will go a long way in developing our children. And that will be a new innovative revolution of education in our country.
Ji, sir.
Vidya,
Sir?
1 second. Vidya, can you take over where daddy left at parenting? Come back as a daughter?
Yes, sure. So first of all, let me thank Saina and Kiran Didi. She's my idol. She's my elder sister. And I'm so happy that you all have chosen such a wonderful topic on mindful parenting. And of course, I will continue from where my father left, and I would also like to continue on my experiences with parents who I deal with both at the school level as well as higher education level. I think what my father said was very right. It's the sanskars that your parents give you, and these get imbibed not really by any kind of teaching or preaching by parents. It is just the ecosystem of your home that helps you develop these sanskars. As he very rightly said, and even I say it so many times, that I have two siblings. One is my younger sister Swati, and the second is Symbiosis. Because Symbiosis was brought up in our home, college campus, where a foreign student who lost his passport, an African student who felt homesick, an Iranian student who was suffering, from any medical illness, was just brought into our home and given a room, and my parents nurtured these foreign students, irrespective of where they came from, what kind of religion that they came from, or which part of the region of the world that they came from. I think it was just that humanity and the that just helped them to take care of these foreign students. And I think for me and Swati, these kind of values of secularism, of compassion, of doing something for those who are needy, just got imbibed in us. And I think these were the sanskars that we were brought up in. Other qualities of honesty, integrity also get imbibed into children because of the behavior of their parents. And I think mindful parenting is all about this, being cautious of the fact that you have children in your homes who are actually observing you, who are imbibing some qualities from their parents inadvertently at times. But therefore, the parents have to be mindful in the way they speak, the way they communicate, the way they behave, and the way they nurture their children. So I think that's exactly what has happened to me and my younger sister. And over the years, with the experience of, first of all, being a doctor myself, and now, carrying forward the legacy at Symbiosis, observing my father, my mother, most importantly, many a times the credit of symbiosis, in fact, most of the times the credit of symbiosis is given to Dr. Muzumdar. But there's so much that my mother has helped him to do. In fact, every critical decision, even today, we fall back on her for a solution. So I think, these kind of the respect that a woman in the family gets, like my mother has got, or any one of us as daughters, something that we have imbibed, the kind of values that we have imbibed, and we will carry these forward, to our children as well and to our grandchildren as well. Now, coming to my interaction with parents, I think parents, the present parents and the parents in the past, I think there's a huge difference. I think when my parents parented us, I don't think they were so cautious of the way they did it. They just knew that they had to bring up their children in good sanskars and good values. That was all. I think parents today are ambitious. Parents today are, want to do things that they haven't been able to do, so that their children should do. So if I wanted to become a doctor and I couldn't, I would want my daughter or son to become a doctor. Or if I couldn't play a guitar well, I would force my child to get into a class to learn guitar, irrespective of whether the child has a liking or not. So I think these kind of, I don't blame the parents at all, but this is the situation today. So trying to fulfill those unfulfilled desires of parents through their children is something that today's parents do. This is one. Second is, again, I don't want to blame the parents, but because of nuclear families, you can't actually fall back on the larger extended family, unfortunately, because of migration of people for work, just to parents living with the child, no grandparents with them. I think that's also a family system that is dying out, unfortunately, in India, which we were so proud of. I remember Swati and I have grown up in a large joint family where my grandmother, my grandfather, my chacha, chachi, my cousins were all there around us. And we also learned a lot of sanskars from them. But you don't find these anymore. And both parents working, they can't give time. And therefore, the best way to satisfy your child was to just give them gifts or give them everything that they ask for. And I think this is the biggest mistake that parents of today make, because it doesn't help children to develop resilience, or it doesn't help children to not take a no. I mean, if you refuse something to your child, the kind of tantrums that the children, do right now is because there is so much in abundance that is given to children today, just because parents don't have time for the children. I don't say it's by purpose, it could be circumstantially, but this is the situation. And then in higher education, what we see is this kind of resilience which is not brought in, and then moving on to mental health and mental illnesses. I think Rajiv will cover that more. So I think the mindful parenting is all about trying to see how you were brought up in a family by your parents, and could you pass on the same kind of sanskars and values to your own children and to your grandchildren, so that they grow up in an atmosphere because as Indians, I think what we have, which many of the Western world or most of the Western world doesn't have, is these kind of values and sanskars that are imbibed in us through families, through generations. And I think we should really, really feel proud of this, and not just become westernized or just try to imbibe the West. In fact, we should feel very proud of our culture, our heritage. In fact, I would go further to say, try and teach your children as mindful parents what our Indian culture and heritage is all about. How many of our today's growing up children, I see my own grandchildren, they know more about cartoons of the West than really history of India. Can we as parents, today's parents, bring in this rich culture and history and heritage of India back to our children the way we have learned from our parents? I think it's all these things are actually mindful parenting. It's not just about about giving a parenting which means discipline, which means strict monitoring, which means being democratic, which means ensuring that your child studies well, which means your child doesn't get into bad habits. All this is good, but I think mindful parenting is much, much more than this. Mindful parenting is all about how do you bring out a character, a personality, a culture in your child, so that your child becomes a good citizen of that country and then a good citizen of the world. I think how can your child become sensitive to the needs of with people who are less fortunate in society. How your child gets nurtured to to diversity. How do you nurture your child to inclusivity? I think these are more important things than just getting a good education and a good employment. I think it's all about, as Saina said, it's education for life. Can we as parents and mindful parents educate our children for their lives, so that no matter in which profession, in which careers, in which programs they study or work in, finally they become good citizens of not just this country, but good citizens of the world. I think I'll stop here and pass on to Saina back.
Ji, ji,
Let's have Rajiv now. Let's have Rajiv take over and then we can go ahead.
ji, yeah, ji, and then we'll start with the question answers. Ji. Very
Let's have
well.
Rajiv.
Yeah,
Rajiv, you can fill in the blanks.
thank you for having me. And I'll start off from the family background because, as rightly mentioned, I'm the son-in-law other than the son. But son-in-laws are meant to not be son outlaws. So in that sense, I'm very much tuned and in accordance with the philosophy of symbiosis. But just coming back to the family background, I was not privileged to have a family ecosystem which ultimately resonates with the philosophy of symbiosis of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Notwithstanding, I was born in a family where my dad was an army officer. So the Fauji background and the discipline, which Kiran Madam can well appreciate, was always ingrained into the system. Ekata, Anushasan, and punctuality is something in my DNA that came from my dad. And the second part came from my mom. She was a school teacher, and subsequently my elder sisters. I've got 4 elder sisters, all of whom have been primary school teachers, and one of them has been an early school teacher, nursery, and excelled in her job as a nursery school teacher and a pre-primary education teacher. So somehow that got ingrained into me. Somehow that got influenced and helped shape my destiny. So, as from an academic standpoint of view, as mentioned in my introduction, I was always the typical studious type of boys. Went on to do my medicine, which was always there as a natural progression of my scholastic abilities, and therefore I went to medicine and then did my post graduation, and then there was a crossroad where I realized that I wanted to pursue education abroad to get internationally certified degree from the UK. And then the harsh reality struck me that yes, I did want to pursue it, but I didn't have the money. And I didn't want to go to anyone to ask for financial assistance. So the best way to learn, to earn money ethically, legally, and morally, all 3 important, was to pick up a job in a good paying country, go to the Gulf as one of those countries, and get my money, write this exam, attempt this exam, come out with a success, and then aspire to get my dream of getting a Western qualification. But when Vidya and me decided that we want to go abroad, and Vidya never wanted to come abroad because she had the symbiosis lineage to toe. But I did tell her that I wanted to get this foreign degree at my cost and at mere balboote pe lena hai. So she agreed to come. But the pact between Vidya and me was that we would come back as soon as I passed my exam, which we rightly did. I passed my exam and then we came back, and Vidya joined Daddy, as she said, to help him run symbiosis. But I went and after I came back, I had a different model to follow. I said, whatever I had learned in Oman as a part of the public health system, can I translate it to India? What the investment by a small country of the Gulf, Sultanate Oman, was doing in public health, can we replicate that model in, if not India, at least in Pune, at least in symbiosis? And that led to the establishment of the Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences. Of course, at that time, it was Health and Biomedical Sciences. Medical college was never on the anvil or the map of symbiosis. And we set up healthcare centers on all campuses of symbiosis to propagate and instill the values of good health amongst the students and staff. It also gave me another learning of life, which I always tell my students and my children also. The power of no, ethics, And girls and boys, whenever I do this induction as a part of the training orientation program of freshmen, always ask me, what is ethics? And under peer pressure, should we succumb? What is right or what is wrong? How do we answer this delicate question? And they are always at a dilemma, always at crossroads to understand what is right and wrong. My simple answer to all these young students, and in fact all my in fact two of our children also, and in fact our three grandchildren also today is, if you want to do something and you're not sure whether it's ethical or not, just ask yourself a question: can I share what I am doing with my parents? If the answer is yes, and your parents will not guide you, will not scold you, or will not be disappointed, please go ahead. But if you have the slightest doubt that your parents would not appreciate what you're doing, forget being disappointed, forget they scolding you, then it is unethical. A simple litmus test whether you want to do it or not, and the power of saying no to temptations despite having the means. And when I say means, it is means of finances, means of position, means of standing in society. The ability to stand stoic and tall, because one of the beautiful sentences which I've learned from Dr. Mazumdar is, if you fall for this, for something, you would no sooner than later fall for anything. And ethics at Symbiosis is a non-negotiable commodity. It is core, it is not elective. As academicians, we understand it is non-tradable. And relating this to health, and when I talk to students about the importance of getting good health in early life and making it a part of lifestyle management, it is no rocket science. I tell them that the WHO definition of health is 4 components: physical health, mental health, social health, and spiritual health. And you don't require a WHO to tell you, the World Health Organization. It is there as part of our sanskars, which has been passed on to us by the Rishi Munis of over 1,000 years, when they spoke about achar, vichar, ahar, and vihar. We are just putting it old wine in a new bottle, or new wine in an old bottle, whatever we call it. But जो आचार हम लोग करते हैं, जो हम लोग डिफरेंट सोसाइटी के मेंबर्स स्टेक होल्डर से हमारा जो बिहेवियर होता है, जो फूड हम लोग लेते हैं, and I'm not here as a proponent of vegetarianism or anything, or as a moral police to say do not indulge in substance abuse. The importance of health, and today as a public health professional, I'm a gynecologist by training, but I find public health more interesting and more impactful. The importance of exercise, physical exercise, is more to do with mental health, the impact it has on your mental health and mental well-being. Because at the risk of informing this learned audience, when one exercises, there is a release of happy hormones. And these happy hormones tend to bring about a change in your attitude, your outlook, and your perception of difficult circumstances. You take a simple exercise like cycling. It is moving meditation. You don't have to sit cross-legged for hours together at one place meditating. All what you do, you can cycle, and you realize you go in a tranquility and a blissful mood to realize and to appreciate the benefits of physical exercise combined with mental exercise. And again, as a mental health, as a person concerned with the downward trend in mental health, the WHO again quotes that everyone in today's stressed out world is insane daily for a few minutes. Sanity lies in ensuring that this period does not get extended by more than few minutes. And patri pe hum log wapas aa jaye. And with India having the dubious distinction in 2016 of being the teenage suicide capital of the world, what pains me, or what pains my colleague healthcare professionals, is we need to train our youth the ability to say, yes, I will do this. And if I don't do this, the ability to accept a no. As Vidya rightly coined the word resilience, the resilience has to be in the youth. The resilience has to be in the parents who learn to accept that their child would not like to tow their dreams of becoming a doctor or an engineer, would like to do something different with equal aplomb and possibility of earning more laurels. So the ability of building up a resilient youth, a resilient parent, a resilient family, because family is the basic unit of community. Finally, community, what is community? It is a conglomeration of family. And together we can emerge as a resilient community to help us, accept nature, and no other than a small tiny virus couple of years back has shown us, हमको हमारी औकात दिखा दी है कि we cannot take things in life granted. There are things in life which can get overturned at the blink of a moment, and we human beings who claim to be at the highest level of evolution, in the ladder of evolution, would be floored in a single minute. The pandemic has shown us what we are and where we can be heading to if we don't learn to accept nature as the mother nature. So mindful parenting starts from the way you're born, the way you're nurtured, the way you imbibe your experiences, and certain things. As a medico, we always say there are two things: one, congenital, which you get from your genes, and the second one, which you acquire through lifetime experiences. So it's a combination of both these factors which help mindful parenting. That's where I come from.
Ji, thank you. Ji. Do we do a question answer, or we would request Ajay sir? And Ajay sir is the strength of mindful parenting. Immense gratitude to him, and Lifology is our handholds us. So can we request Ajay sir to share his views, and then Rahul ji, and then we can have a panel. We can have a question answers, because we don't want to miss out on that. Ji, Ajay.
Please.
Ji.
Yeah. Actually, we are truly honored to host you, Dr. Majumdar, Dr. Vidya, and Dr. Rajiv. Thank you. And actually, I would like to ask a question also about decision making, important decision making. Speaking about decision making in parenting, especially as emphasized in chapter 2 of our book, highlights the pivotal role parents play in instances where even seemingly trivial choices are pre-made for children, such as selecting an outfit. There is a risk of stifling their autonomy. To empower children for life's larger decisions, we as parents must recognize the value in even the smallest choices. Our duty is to guide them through the decision-making process, encouraging them to gather information, weigh options, and identify alternatives. By entrusting them with the final decision, we cultivate a sense of ownership. My question to Dr. Ajiv and Dr. Vidya is, as we delve into this critical aspect of parenting, exploring the decision-making process, how can parents effectively empower their children to make decisions while maintaining a delicate balance between providing support and fostering independence? Your insights, please.
So you want me to comment first?
So,
Yes, so I think
you would like to take that first?
yes, I will. So it's a very good question, and because this is something that parents are always at crossroads for. There are some parents who impose their decisions on their children, and there are some parents who give so much autonomy to their children that sometimes the children may go wrong, and therefore there has to be a line that is drawn where you handhold your child and be aware of the decisions that he or she will take, but be in the backdrop of that decision making. So I know it's a little critical. It has its own gray zone, but then I think that's about the maturity that any parent should have. I personally feel, and Rajiv and I have been democratic parents. Let me give you an example. Our daughter Amrita was a very bright student, and she is a bright working professional now. So we always thought that she will toe our line of becoming a doctor. She herself used to keep saying that, I want to become a doctor, and she would study hard. She would always be high in the merit list. And one fine day in the night, we heard her sobbing in her bedroom. And when Rajiv and I went up to her and said, "Why are you crying?" She said that, because she was always a very sincere student. So she said that, I really don't want, I think I don't want to do medicine, and I would like to, do something else. Now, this would have come as a shock to any parent, because, most of the times parents want to, as I said, carry out their unfulfilled desires through their children. What we told her is, fine, if you don't want to become a doctor, think of what else would you like to become, and think of 10 years down the line, what would you think do. So she said that I'm confused, and that's why I'm crying. So what we did was, again, mindful parenting, and helped her in the decision making. So I told her that go to every faculty of Symbiosis, which means law, engineering, humanities and social sciences, and so on. Interact with teachers, but more importantly, interact with students, and find out whether you like the subject, what happens after you study that subject, and then make a decision. Don't make a decision just like that because a friend has, wants to do engineering, or you find medicine difficult, or whatever. But take a conscious decision. And I think this really helped her, because she took a conscious decision of doing law, and then she was a very happy child, a very happy student, and she excelled even in that field when she took up law. So I think it's all about, holding hands and allowing your children to take the right decision, instead of giving them that, free way of saying that just go and do what you like because I want to empower you to take decisions. It's not like that. They are still immature. They need their parents, but don't impose your decisions on them, but certainly, handhold them so that they take the right decisions, and you don't have to regret for the decisions that they take.
Very lovely. Beautiful. Excellent.
Vidya has given an example of our daughter, so let me, corroborate what we did for our son. Our son was in the 12th standard, and he was never interested in science or medicine, forget medicine. So he came up to us and he said he wanted to do commerce. But then we told him that it's no point in just doing a plain commerce degree. You have to do some sort of professionalism tinged degree, and therefore he did the Bachelor in Business Administration. And having done the Bachelor in Business Administration, we said we can't be stopping you that, and you need to do your MBA, and further not stopping at the MBA, but we cajoled him and coaxed him to undertake again a Western qualification. Again, probably it could be a reflection that I had done my post-graduation abroad, the Western degree. So we enrolled him for a MSc in the London School of Economics. Again, during his transition from school days to early college days, there was a period where, like a young teenager, he was lost. And at that point of time, Indian Idol was getting recently launched. And he said, Mom, I want to become a singer. And he's got a fairly good voice. So he said, you want to do singing, but then it can't be a full-time thing because you want to explore it, you do explore it. But he realized that to take up singing as a full-time career, there were many sacrifices which he would have to do. And he was not mentally prepared for taking those exercises. So it was his conscious decision to realize that he could not pursue his passion into a profession. And therefore, he came to this management education and has done good for himself. Again, he has that entrepreneurial bug in him. And today, he runs 2 successful companies besides being doing a job at Symbiosis, because the entrepreneurial initiative in him could not be satiated with the intrapreneurial job which is pursuing at Symbiosis. So, as Vidya rightly said, it's a पतंग जैसा है, जितनी डील दोगे आप उतना ही संवारना चाहिए. कहाँ देनी है डील, कितनी देनी है डील, that's the critical question. And there's no 100% right or wrong. There's always a gray zone in between where either of you would miss out a step. The idea is to pick up and from that faltering step and come back on track. And I say this both for the parents as well as for the child. That's what the balance would be.
How nice.
Thank you. Actually, the greatest gift you can give your child is the ability to make their own decisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And help them make the decision and consider their decision. While you're starting them, you're directioning them, but finally it's their own decision. They have to own it.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Ji.
Isn't it, Ajay?
Ji, we request Rahul Ji. Rahul Ji, please share your thoughts, and we'll have a question answer after that.
Saina ji, before that, I just want to make an announcement.
Please.
I'm thrilled to announce the co-authorship of the second edition of Mindful Parenting, our book, with Dr. Kiran Bedi ji. This sequel, inspired by our digital sessions, will broaden our focus to include both child and parent perspectives. So, thank you, ma'am, for this idea. So we will come soon with the book together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These sessions will help us. Yes, Rahul.
Yes.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a great audience. All my idols are here. See, in my opinion, the mindful parenting is a buzzword these days, just like the artificial intelligence that we are hearing from different parts of the world. In a world where screens often dominate our attention, mindful parenting prompts us to put down our devices and engage in a real conversation. I'm reminded of a quotation like, the greatest gift you can give to your child is the ability to connect with the present moment. And mindful parenting teaches us that our children are not mere projects to be managed, but unique individuals deserving of our time and understanding. And I believe that this approach, mindful parenting, is not confined to a specific era or cultural context. It's a timeless philosophy that transcends generational boundaries. Whether you're a new parent or a grandparent, the principle of mindful parenting resonates across the ages, reminding us of enduring importance of being fully present for those we love. And mindful parenting is not a destination, but a journey. You can say a journey, a self journey for self-discovery, empathy, and unconditional love. In this context, I have a short question to Majumdar sir. So he's with 88 years of wisdom. My question is that, in your observation, now these days, you have seen many generations. You were a child and you received a great parenting from your father, and then you became father, then your grandfather, and not only to one or two people, maybe multitude of ethnicity or maybe culture that you just mentioned. In your observation of different parenting styles over these years, do you think the concept of mindful parenting aligns with the traditional cultural values, or have there been significant shifts in how families approach raising their children with mindfulness?
Mindful parenting, the method, the pattern keeps on changing. The mindful parenting, when I was a child, was totally different. But today, you will find that mindful parenting is a science. It has certain aspects which need to be taught. And therefore, mindful parenting has become much, much important in today's time than when I was a child. And therefore, the mindful parenting has to be taught right in the school so that they become good parents. They know the technique of, technique is not a good word, but art and science of mindful parenting. What is your question?
Is it contradicting the traditional values, the present day world, the modern mindful parenting, the concept of modern day parenting? Is it contradicting the traditional cultures and values, etc.?
See, mindful
Parenting.
mindful parenting is certainly based on values. And the values are those honesty, sincerity, morality, all that. But one thing you must remember, that my child has to learn how to adapt to the changing condition. Adaptation is the rule, and adaptation is essential for every child, for every individual. So today, the mindful parenting should give more emphasis on how my child will adapt to changing situation. And it certainly requires cherishing age-old values. So it's a difficult exercise. On the one hand, you want your child to be ideal, following certain traditions, imbibing certain values, and yet the child should have an art of adapting to changing situation. How to do it is anybody's question, but personally I feel that values along with capacity to adapt to changing situation is the core, in the sense, of mindful parenting.
Ji. Rahul ji, just sharing a thought with you and with everyone. Old times or new age times, one thing is not changed. Your child is from you. That's not changed. Your child comes from you. Every mother carries the child for 9 months. The child is you. It's the father and the mother's love that is supposed to create the child. That's not changed.
Let me answer Rahul's question.
I just need a minute, Ji, and then
okay. Let me answer. That will help us wrap up the program.
Ji. That's not changed. So I think if you can love that self of yours more than you love this self of yours, if you love your child more than you can love your own self, your child will be open to expressing all that the child is feeling. And then you can find a common ground, you can find a path ahead. Because love has not changed. Ji.
Saina, it's going to be how do you express the love? It's how do you give the love? It's love. Love goes beyond saying. That is the bond which a parent has to have with the child. Without that, it's a desert. Then you'll all go different directions. Let me tell you a very interesting quote I came across. I think that will help us wrap up the program because we're heading for a closure of the program. It says it's parenting in 1982, and there's parenting in 2021. It's a very beautiful thing I came across, and I'm going to read this out for you. It answers Rahul's question too. It answers Rahul's question, and Dr. Majumdar would love it. Parenting in 1982 said just one answer. It just says one answer. This one. It says, feed them occasionally. 1982 says, feed your children occasionally. I would say, feed them well, but it says feed them occasionally. But in 2021, the article, it's written by Bunmi Laditton. I do not know who he is. He says, make sure your children's academic, emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual, physical, nutritional, and social needs are met while being while being careful not to overstimulate, understimulate, improperly medicate, helicopter, or neglect them in a screen-free, processed food-free, GMO-free, negative energy-free, plastic-free, body-positive, socially conscious, egalitarian, but also authoritative, nurturing, but fostering of independence, gentle, but not overly permissive, pesticide free, two-story, multilingual home, preferably in a cul-de-sac with a backyard and 1.5 sibling, spaced at least 2 years apart for development, proper developmental, lasting, and he says, don't forget the coconut oil. Where do you stop?
Very well written.
Where do you stop? Where do you stop? And I came across this and I thought that would be great. That is the real challenge today on mindful parenting.
It's true.
All these are today part of parenting. Love is the easiest, simplest, available, and it's inborn. So, Saina, I thought this is the challenge before parenting. And Ajay, this is the area of your book.
Yeah.
Every aspect of our book. This is the area of your new book, and because you've already written Mindful Parenting. But you see how far it's 2021, and I think it's drastically changing even in 2023. Can you take out any portion of this? None. Because this is what is expected of parents to provide for the child of today. That's a challenge. But I think lucky are who've had fathers like Dr. Majumdar. Lucky are those fathers like have had Vidyas and Rajivs, children of this value-based. Very lucky. These are very fortunate parents, future children who had this time of having the same time today is a lottery. It's a lottery. It's a lottery. Yes, Vidya? Vidya?
Yes, what you said is so true. I think the parent of today is as confused as the child of today, and I think they also require a lot of handholding. So I'm sure this book that you are talking about on mindful parenting will be of great help. I would certainly like to read that book and maybe even prescribe it to many parents who of symbiosis, 46,000 parents of symbiosis, so that they also learn. And of course, they know what parenting is all about, but in this confused state of mind, as you very rightly read, and the high expectations of children of the present generation, I think this book will be of great help to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Saina.
Ji.
Thank you so much to Dr. Majumdar.
Thank you.
Sir, pranam, sir. Thank you, sir. Pranam, sir.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vidya, and thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We conclude our program. Ji. We thank our audience. We meet you
Thank you
next
so much.
Ji. Thank you.
It's a very worthy, very precious program. It has gone online on YouTube. I would like to see this goes on and on for many parents to be listening to this wisdom of Dr. Majumdar and both Vidya and Rajiv.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ji. Thank you. Grateful to our audience. Thank you. Jai Dhani. Pranam.